Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're hitting the road, or maybe the road is about to hit back.
Mm,
We're talking self-driving cars, AI taking the wheel, and the whole enchilada of how our commutes might look drastically different soon.
okay.
Seriously, the research you sent over has me wondering if I should be buying a steering wheel cover
Yeah.
or a good book to enjoy on my morning commute.
You're definitely not alone in wondering that. And that's exactly why we're here to separate the Jetsons fantasy from the road that's actually being built.
And from the looks of these articles, that road is under some serious construction.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking everything from industry predictions to universities teaching cars how to understand our every word.
hmm
It's a lot to process.
Absolutely. But don't worry, that's what we're here for. Let's start by getting a grip on this whole self-driving spectrum.
Okay.
You see, it's not just a flip switch from human driver to robot chauffeur.
Right.
There are levels to this.
Right. Like
Yeah.
those SAE automation levels. It's a bit like climbing a tech ladder, right?
Exactly. Imagine it like this. Level 1 and 2 are like those helpful driver assist features already in a lot of new cars.
Yeah.
Adaptive cruise control, lane keeping. Think of those as your car dipping its toes into the autonomy pool. Helpful for sure, but still very much under your control.
Okay, so what about level 3? That's where things start to get really interesting, right?
hmm Yeah.
One article mentioned Mercedes offering level 3 autonomy in some of their cars, but only in very specific situations.
Exactly. Level 3 is where you could, in theory, check out mentally and let the car handle things BUT only under very specific conditions.
Right.
Think clearly marked highways, good weather, that kind of thing. It's like having a co-pilot who's great with the highway, but panics in a roundabout.
So like a really high-tech cruise control.
Precisely. But the moment things get complicated, like, say, sudden bad weather or a construction zone, the car's going to say, nope, back in the driver's seat, buddy.
And then there's level 5, full-on autonomy, no human intervention needed.
Right.
One of the articles mentioned that by 2035, only 17% of new cars might have this tech.
Right.
That feels surprisingly low.
It speaks to the sheer complexity of achieving true level 5 autonomy. It's not just about the car being able to drive itself, but navigating a world that's still very much designed for human drivers. Think unpredictable pedestrians, chaotic intersections, not to mention the ethical dilemmas we've all heard about.
Okay, yeah. Those ethical dilemmas are something else.
Yeah.
Like, how does a self-driving car decide what to do in an unavoidable accident?
Yeah,
That's some serious moral philosophy stuff right there.
exactly. It's a whole can of worms that philosophers and engineers are still trying to figure out. And until there are clear answers and even clearer regulations, mass adoption of fully autonomous vehicles is going to be a slow crawl, not a sudden leap.
It's almost ironic, right? We've got the technology to potentially build cars that can drive themselves, but the biggest roadblock might be our own moral compass.
You hit the nail on the head. The technology is advancing rapidly, but building trust in that technology, establishing ethical frameworks, and navigating the potential societal implications, that's where the real challenge lies.
You know, reading all this, I can't help but think about that famous quote.
The future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, we have companies like Mercedes pushing the boundaries of level 3 autonomy, but then you have this Purdue University study where they're teaching AI to understand spoken commands in a car.
Right?
They called it talk to drive.
Now, that research is particularly fascinating. They used OpenAI's GPT-4 to allow drivers to literally have a conversation with their car. And the AI was able to navigate highways, intersections, even parking lots.
Wait, seriously? They're that far along? That's wild. So I could theoretically just tell my car, take me to that new cafe downtown, and it'll actually do it.
That's the goal, and the early results are definitely promising. But remember, this research is still in its early stages. They tested it in controlled environments, but the real world is messy. There are countless variables, unexpected obstacles, things even the most advanced AI might struggle with.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like teaching a kid to drive. You can show them the basics in an empty parking lot, but until they're out there navigating real traffic, you never really know how they'll react.
Precisely. And when those kids are AI systems driving tons of metal at high speed, the stakes are considerably higher. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the challenges of bringing self-driving cars to the masses. The technology itself is only one piece of the puzzle.
You're right. One of the articles dove into this whole other layer of complexity, the business side of things. And let me tell you, it's not just about slapping a price tag on a car anymore. We're talking about a potential paradigm shift in how we pay for our rides.
Absolutely. McKinsey, for example, predicts that by 2035, the market for autonomous vehicle features could reach a staggering $300 to $400 billion. But that projection comes with a whole lot of ifs and buts.
Yeah, because getting there assumes people are actually willing to pay a premium for these self-driving features. And that's not a given right. Some folks might be perfectly content with their old-school driving experience. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Consumer adoption is a huge factor. And even if people are on board, there are different scenarios for how this technology rolls out. A rapid, widespread adoption would have very different implications than a slower, more gradual shift. Infrastructure needs regulations, even the way cities are designed. All of that gets impacted by the pace of adoption.
It's like that ripple effect, right? One change in the automotive industry could end up transforming entire cities.
Precisely. And let's not forget about the potential for entirely new business models. We're already seeing companies like Tesla move towards a software as a service model where you pay a subscription fee for access to certain features.
Right. One article even mentioned the possibility of subscribing to a traffic jam assist package.
Yeah.
So you basically only pay for the self-driving feature when you're stuck in those soul-crushing commutes. Honestly, I'd probably pay good money for that right now.
Right. It sounds pretty tempting. But this shift toward software-defined cars brings up a whole host of other questions. For example, if our cars are constantly receiving software updates, who owns all the data they're collecting? And what happens if a software update goes wrong? Does my car suddenly forget how to parallel park?
Okay, that's a little unnerving to think about. And, this whole subscription model, while convenient, raises some eyebrows for me. I mean, we're used to owning our cars, not essentially renting features from manufacturers.
It's a valid concern, and it speaks to a broader trend of servitization happening across many industries. But in the context of self-driving cars, it does make you wonder, what are the long-term implications for ownership privacy and even our freedom to tinker with our own vehicles? These are questions that lawmakers, tech companies, and consumers need to grapple with sooner rather than later.
It's like we're on the verge of this massive social experiment and we're still figuring out the rules as we go.
In a way, yes. But let's not forget that amidst all this complexity, there's also tremendous potential. Imagine a world with fewer accidents, smoother traffic flow, and greater mobility for those who can't drive today.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the what-ifs and the potential downsides, but we can't lose sight of the positive impact this technology could have, especially for people with disabilities, the elderly, or anyone who's currently limited by their ability to drive.
Yeah.
This could be truly life-changing for them. And it's not just about personal mobility either. Think about the potential environmental benefits. One of the articles touched on how electric vehicles are almost a given in this autonomous future.
Absolutely. It's hard to imagine a future with self-driving cars that doesn't also involve significant shift toward electric power. But even there, things aren't so simple.
Right, because it's not just about swapping gasoline for batteries and calling it a day. There are all sorts of questions about battery production recycling and whether our power grids can even handle a massive influx of electric vehicles.
Exactly. We have to think about the entire life cycle of these vehicles, from the materials used to build them to how they're disposed of. And then there's the question of energy sources. If we're powering all these electric cars with electricity generated from fossil fuels, are we really making progress on the environmental front?
It's like solving one problem might create a whole new set of challenges. Talk about a deep dive. We're really swimming in the complexities here.
That's the thing about the future, isn't it? It's not a pre-programmed destination, but a series of choices we make along the way. And with self-driving cars, the choices we make today will determine what that future looks like.
So where do we go from here? You've given us a lot to chew on, but what are some key things listeners should keep in mind as we navigate this brave new world of autonomous vehicles?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to remember that the future of driving is not a spectator sport. We're not just passive passengers along for the ride. From the policies we support to the cars we choose to buy or not buy, we all have a role to play in shaping this technology.
So it's not just about whether or not you're comfortable letting a computer take the wheel, but also about engaging in the broader conversations about ethics, regulations, and the kind of future we want to create.
Exactly. And that's what I hope listeners take away from this deep dive, a sense of informed curiosity. Ask questions, stay informed, and don't be afraid to voice your opinions. The road ahead might be uncertain, but by engaging in these conversations, we can help steer it in a direction that benefits everyone.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought to ponder. As we become increasingly reliant on technology, on artificial intelligence, how do we maintain our own sense of agency, our own connection to the act of driving? It's a question that goes beyond the technical and speaks to the very heart of our relationship with the automobile. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of driving. Until next time, keep those engines running, or maybe those algorithms processing.